Welcome to episode 2 of Urbn Desi's BUB Excellent Podcast. Hopefully this time we can hear Kunj. One of the goals of Urbn Desi, in addition to pushing Urbn Desi inspired streetwear, is to celebrate the successes of those stories in the South Asian community around us. My guest today is someone I've met somewhat recently that immediately captivated me with his thinking and his story. And that is Prasad. Thank you for doing this, my man.
Of course, thank you.
Thank you. With us today, we have Kunj, we have Suvin, we obviously have Prasad. So today we're just going to talk about Prasad's story, racism that we've all dealt with, and holistic medicine. And if we have time, we're probably going to get into hip-hop, because there's some things that I want to talk about. So Prasad, we're going to start with, I want to talk to you. Well, I actually want everyone else to know, tell us your story from, the beginning, where you originate from.
Sure, man.
It's a hefty question, you know?
So, my parents were born in India, and they, I think around, maybe 91 or so, moved to Canada. They came to America first to work a little bit. They got some money down, and we got, a 2-bedroom apartment in Mississauga, where all the Indian people live, Brampton area.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
is that the Brampton, Canada that everyone talks about?
Yeah.
Oh, that's Brampton?
Yeah.
That's where Party Next Door is from.
That's where Party Next Door is from. That's where I think who's fuck? What am I forgetting?
The Weeknd maybe from there.
No. Damn, brown dude.
Oh, no.
YouTube vlog.
No.
Oh,
Just Rain?
Just
Yeah.
Rain is also
He's
from
from
Brampton.
Brampton.
Yeah,
Brampton.
Just Rain's from Brampton too. Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So I was born around there, and then when I was 3 years old, we finally saved up enough money to buy this motel in Pennsylvania.
Okay.
So we needed some source of income.
Yeah.
It's hard for my parents. They were educated. My dad got a degree in microbiology, and my mom had a master's in physics.
Mm-hmm.
But when you come to the States, you can't use any of that. So we were kind of that was the only option we had, was to buy a business and kind of hope that ran. So Pennsylvania was one of the cheapest places to go to, so we went there. And before I talk about Pennsylvania at all, because we said we talk about the racism that we had encountered, I do want to say that some of the people in Pennsylvania that I met were the most beautiful people I ever met, amazing people. Some of the teachers I had growing up, most inspiring people. They pushed me to do the things that I've done today.
Can you tell us the ages that you were in Pennsylvania, just so the audience is clear?
So I moved when I was 3, and then I moved out of there to Cleveland my freshman year of high school. So when I was 14.
So from the ages from 3 to 14, you're
in.
Where in Pennsylvania?
It was right on the border of Ohio and Pennsylvania.
What's the town?
Mercer, Pennsylvania.
Mercer, Pennsylvania.
It's close to Youngstown.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. Listen, anything west of Philadelphia, I have no idea.
That's
Yeah.
all of his way, bro.
I know, but
That's
that's the
literally all of
listen.
it.
That's the part of Pennsylvania we're not walking through.
No,
or
100%.
driving through for that
I
matter.
only know I do it all the time.
But yeah, so you were there.
So yeah, it was nice. When I was growing up, we just had a bunch of land, so I just played around as a kid. So
Okay.
it's, I had nice memories, early childhood. But that was also around the time that 9/11 happened.
Mm-hmm.
So right at that time, there was a lot of brown hatred, a lot of fear towards brown people. So I remember some of the shit that was happening to us. It was just ridiculous. We didn't feel safe in our own home. We had our exit for Mercer was right off of 80, right? A pretty popular highway. So my dad bought some a sign space out there, and we put a sign up for our hotel.
Your sign for your dad's motel, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just if you're driving past.
How
you
far
see
did you
this
guys live
place.
from the motel, or?
We were in the motel. So
Oh,
the
so
motel,
okay.
the bottom part of it was 22 rooms, and the top part of it was an apartment. So we just took up that apartment. We
Got
just
it.
lived there.
Okay.
Lessen up living costs.
Okay.
So we had that sign out there, and I remember I was super young, and me and my dad just went out for a drive somewhere, and I remember we were on the highway and just pulls over and then takes an exit and then goes back on the highway the other way and then pulls over. And I was asking him what happened. He's like, someone wrote on our sign. So I'm like, that's no big deal. We pull up, he had just seen some writing. We pull up to the sign. It was this huge Nazi symbol, KKK. Go back to where you came from. The N-word several times. And that stuff I don't know. It's
How did the people know that was your motel, or is it what is on this billboard? It's just like your
Yeah,
motel?
it was just
Okay.
like, it was specific for our hotel.
Okay.
And the city itself was quite small.
Mm-hmm.
And we were literally the only Indian people in the city. So it was very well known that like
That you guys were
yeah.
the only brown people in the whole community.
Yeah.
Got it. Damn, that's crazy. So like,
That is
what did your like? Did your dad like report it or like?
No, there's no use. Like we've had stuff like that happen even before then, and you call the police and they're like, "We'll keep an ear out." But there's so much like brown hatred going on at the time. Like, what are you gonna do? Like, or like pull over every white guy you see and ask him if he's,
Damn.
It was impossible to find.
So, how old were you when this happened? Like this specific instance?
This one I think I would have been 6, maybe 7.
6. Wow, that's crazy young.
So that's I don't know, like you even after that, like maybe like the week after, like we had someone throw like a glass bottle through our door, and so like all these little things, like especially being that young, you don't feel safe in your own house. Like when you go home, you're supposed like this a place where like you can just be, and even like in my bed and stuff, like I never knew if someone was just gonna like come through the door one day and do something. There's always that like fear.
I'm curious as to like, I know like you're talking about like how you felt like, but can you imagine like how like what were like your parents like thinking throughout this whole time?
My parents had gone through it so much that like
They
after something
normalized
like that would happen, it was completely normal. Like there was no second to like sit down and be like, oh my god, like it was just normal. Like that's how many times I'd gone through it.
They had like just come to accept the reality of like their situation, right?
Yeah.
I think that's like something that like I know like Hasan Minhaj talked about in his like stand-up special, right? Like I think like first generation like immigrant like parents, right? I think they're just so happy to like even be in the U.S., right? That they just think like that's like an accepted norm within that. That's insane though. But this wasn't like the only time. Like I know off camera we've talked like multiple times. Could you explain like one of the other situations? Because to me that was one of the craziest things I've heard.
Oh right. So there was the one time. I forget how old I was. It was like close to the end actually when I was there. Maybe I was maybe 12, and we were just like, it was like Saturday morning. So we had all woken up late, my whole family, and we sat down to have breakfast. I was watching some like cartoons on the TV. And our whole apartment shook.
Okay.
And we were just like, oh my god, was there an earthquake or something? Like, we just didn't know.
So you said like, you just like felt like shattered, like an earthquake.
Yeah, just like the whole building just shook.
Yeah.
Like even our table and stuff moved. So we thought literally the only thing could be was like an earthquake. So we like ran outside, and the right wing of our hotel had a hole in it. Like just a hole in the side of the wall, and we looked in, and like a whole room had just like been collapsed down. And we called the police, and they looked at all like the forensic evidence, tire mark stuff, and they said someone came in and just floored it backwards and just totaled your hotel and probably their car, but just like it was like back end damage for the car, so they could run off, but they did it completely on purpose just to damage the building and then get out.
That's like insanity.
Yeah.
For somebody to just sacrifice their own car out of like hatred, like that's insane.
Wild.
Yeah.
And like very well planned almost.
Yeah.
You had to come in from the back, and then so they can.
Yeah, because like if they hit it
Stay
with their
ready.
front, the car would have
Yeah.
died, and then they would have been caught. So they had to have thought it out, like where to hit, how to hit.
Like, imagine like what type of hate that you have to have where it's like, yo, like I don't give a fuck about how much like money I'm gonna use to like repair my car. I'm just gonna take these people out. Like in your opinion, like do you think like that, like, because obviously like he doesn't, like whoever did it probably doesn't know like where your room is located. Do you think that was like probably like a threat against like your life, your family's life?
Yeah, they just wanted to do some sort of damage. Obviously, like they knew where we lived, but because like our like whole house thing was on the top.
Okay.
So that was obviously like, inaccessible to damage.
Okay, yeah.
So they just, and then also like if you get the end of the hotel, it's just more damage. So they literally just wanted to cause some sort of havoc and then drive off. And the worst part was that room was rented. Thank God the couple that had that room had gone out for like a late brunch, and so they weren't there. But someone would have died. Like literally, that whole like wall of that room was in.
So like after these like situations, like, did your parents ever think about leaving?
We thought about leaving all the time, but you need money to leave. You know.
Yeah.
Like we put all this money in, like got a loan for the motel.
Okay.
Which was a couple $100,000, right? Before you pay that off, you're stuck. So we were stuck there the longest time. My parents thought about moving all the time. Like they, no one ever likes to live in situations like that. And granted, like I said, like there were also amazing people there that made it a lot better. Our neighbors were just this old white couple, nicest people you'd ever meet. Would come and just like bring us food like every month or so. Like, you know, they had a big farm. They would bring us like their fresh picked vegetables. They always took care of us. But it was just like these, you know, some people that you would encounter. It just got rough. And so eventually, when we did when we did have enough money saved, we immediately booked it out.
Yeah.
Got a different. We moved before we even bought a business here. We
Mhm.
came here and then just looked after.
Yeah, exactly.
Because at that point, like, it becomes a like survivalistic.
So I don't know, like did you ever feel like, I'm sure you felt like in danger, but a lot of it is they want to just move you out, like that's the whole premise of what they're doing.
It wasn't even like, it's like there was like obviously those groups like these violent outbursts, they happened, right? But I can't tell you this whole list. Like, this only happens like a couple different times. So if you get used to those things, it's not as bad. But then there was also like the general environment of the place, right? Like it was never like people were nice there. They were never like, we want you out of here. We don't want your kind here. But there was always the air of like, you're not one of us. Like you don't fit. You don't belong. And I think that's almost more damaging. Because at least one way you think you're fighting.
Yeah.
But this way it just kind of breaks.
Yeah.
Because you're like, you know, like
There's
I
no
wanna go
like
to
anger
school.
to be angry back at.
Right,
It's-
right.
It's just
So they are fine people, you know, but it's just they're not going to accept you because there's, no matter how hard you try, there's something inherently different about who you are.
throughout all this, right? Like now we can like look back in retrospect. Do you think that these like situations, these things like impacted the way that you operate, the way that you move, the way that you just think about like people or like your own ethnicity?
Yeah, like big time. It like, you know, growing up in something like this like definitely influenced a lot of the choices I made afterwards after I moved. Even like we've talked about like I at some point like because I moved when I was in like starting 9th grade.
Mm-hmm.
So like when I'd reached 6th grade over there, I'd gotten so sick of like feeling like out of place that I begged my parents to let me go to school in India for a year. But there's always like stuff like that like it would affect me. Yeah, like it would definitely motivate like some of my choices and also like how I perceive situations.
So how was it going to school in Pennsylvania,
It's interesting.
especially versus like Cleveland?
Yeah, because you have gone to school now in Ohio, right? Which is, you said it was drastically different, right?
Yeah.
So how was like the school experience in Pennsylvania?
So it was interesting. Like there's always like obviously like, you know, middle school, elementary school is quite cliquey. So there's
Yeah.
always cliques of people. And
kids that age are mean, yo.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
gonna say.
Like middle school, elementary school kids are
Yeah.
fucking
Oh
mean.
my god,
Yeah.
there was one kid, I want to say 2nd grade or 3rd grade, bro, in the lunchroom was throwing like some kind of deli meat slice at me, like they said I
you
was
serious?
vegetarian.
Oh, like
yeah,
a vegetarian, yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
yeah. He was like, oh, he's gonna go to hell if you hit him. Like he was trying to make a
Yo,
joke.
I've heard that shit so many times. Where it's like, yo,
That's fucked up.
yeah, like if I throw pepperoni on him, he's going to hell. Like, yo, that's not how it works. If God punishes me for that, like, we have problems. Damn, that's fucked.
And it's like you couldn't fault the kids either, cause like that's just kid shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that's fine. But it was like the stuff that these kids would hear from their parents or from like people around them that then would come back to me like at school.
Did they
So it would just be the weirdest.
Did they ever like make racist jokes about you?
Yeah, but like that's the thing is like I hate bringing that up because like if I say like they're making racist jokes, it sounds super bad. Like, oh, these guys suck.
Yeah.
But
Cause
I also knew a lot of these guys. They were good people.
Yeah, no,
I mean,
so
but see, that's the
I
thing,
think at that age,
like racist jokes, like
I don't know.
A lot of it is like like if you're from different cultures, like what's the best way to kind of share your culture? I don't, like jokes.
Nah, I don't
yeah.
know.
Not
Like,
really.
listen, at that age, like, I get it, right? Because you don't know better, right?
Yeah.
But at this age, like, you would never make, like, an Asian joke, right? Like,
no, bro, it's still definitely.
Nah.
Yo,
that-
people with different cultures. That's how you you should. It's
No, but
yeah,
you- but
obviously
here's
you
the
come
thing,
with like
you would-
something like ignorant. That's
No.
you would
so
do it.
discriminatory.
You would do it with somebody that, like,
You're
you're
close to.
cool with, right?
Yes, yes.
But, like,
But that's also the part of the process of becoming close to someone.
I think there's a certain level of comfort that you have to get to before you can
Yeah,
do some,
yeah,
do
for
dash
sure.
say something like that.
Yeah.
And
well,
here's the thing.
Hold up. So you have to have have some wits about it. You can't just say something.
Yeah,
ignorant.
but at that age, you think they have wits about what
I
they're
did.
saying?
Yeah, I did.
I give you
Nah.
examples of some
I
of the
think,
stuff that they
yeah,
said.
but like, think about it. That's like the meat thing. That's definitely super ignorant.
Yeah.
Like,
no, all right.
that
yeah.
there's one time.
Yeah,
It's a very middle school thing though. Like.
That's no, but I'm saying like kids are mean, right? And
Yeah.
like, here's the thing, like a lot of those like these attitudes aren't just like they don't just prop up, right? Like it comes from somewhere, right? Like the meat joke, like no kid is original enough to think of that, right? Like that has to come from somewhere, right? Like like somebody around that person has to thought about that. But moving on, like you experienced this, right? Did you meet people that like you wanted to be like friends with you, but like still kind of like kept you at a distance, in a sense?
I got lucky in that there weren't people like that. Like there were definitely like 7, 8 people over there that were super nice that I was friends with. Their parents were also nice. They would have me over. It was no big deal. The other people were just like, we just did not like. There was not too much interaction. Like I was not getting called over to a lot of people's houses or anything. Like, but so like they would just talk to me like you're passing by, right? So it didn't seem like there was like someone who would be like, let's be friends here, but like don't talk to me somewhere else. There was never anything like that. But
kids are fucking mean, yo. I'm still thinking about it. Like I was, on the flight back from Seattle, I'm like sitting next to a 7th grade teacher, right? And then he was just telling me, he's like, yo, like middle school kids are fucking mean, right? He's their teacher, right? He's like a math teacher. He's like, yo, I'll come into like like wearing a shirt, right? And he teaches in Nashville, right? Or like a suburb around Nashville. Like he does Teach for America, where like they take you to like places that really need teachers, right? That nobody else wants to teach. So he goes to this place and he's like, yo, kids are mean. They'll literally be like, he was like redheaded, right? He's like, his kids will go up to him and be like, oh, like where's the pot of gold? Like straight up to his face. I was like, he's like, yo, kids like come up to him and be like, oh, I like your shirt, right? Where'd you get it? Like the trash, like straight up to it. Like I was just like, wow, like honestly, like in our experiences, like elementary, middle school, like kids are fucking mean, like, especially when there's obviously like the undertone of like racism and like
there was
like,
when I was a
on.
kid, I loved like being Hindu. My parents like brought me up like from birth, so I would wear that little like red dot to school.
Okay.
And that lasted like 6, 7 months. And then like some of my friends would at the time would come up and like tackle me down the hallways and be like, oh, like just dumb jokes, like, oh, I thought I saw a little sniper thing on your head. And
wow.
Yeah, I stopped doing that shit. Like it's okay, I'm done with that.
I think that's an insane. Like I feel like I've seen that like a significant amount, right? I'm like, damn, I feel super uncultured. I don't know.
Like that's not like unique to anyone.
What is it
like even like us growing up, all the kids.
I know, but like, what is it? Oh, sorry, I'm blanking. What is this called again?
Chamba.
Yeah.
For us.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like, I've seen people literally stop wearing it because of these jokes and these things, and I'm just like, wow, that like, it has to be at some level like psychologically scarring, right? For you to like turn away from like something that you've been brought and raised into doing, right? Like that's your religion, right? At some level, like we all have an affinity for our religion, right? And your parents probably taught that to you, hoping that like you fulfill your religious obligations, and then for some external people forcing you to change it, right, with their behavior, I think that's like some sick shit.
Yeah, I mean it's sick, but it also, right? So for you need to have some sort of anchor within, like an anchor of willpower that will,
But at that age, I feel like at that age you're being tested. Like now, right? I'm 100% like now I'm comfortable.
Well, see, I mean, like
with
that's something
whatever.
like my parents like tell me. Like,
Oh yeah, but
a lot of that is on the parents.
Yeah,
too,
but
like,
at that age, like I feel like a lot of kids haven't developed that self-confidence to have that willpower.
Yeah.
That is a self-confidence thing, right? Like at this age, like I don't mind, like, I don't know, like I don't mind claiming that like I'm Muslim, right? Like I'm like, yeah, I'm Muslim, like it is what it is, right? Like I don't mind posting, like I remember like it was a big thing, like I don't mind posting pictures and like kurtas and like on Eid and stuff, right?
Would you walk down the street in Ohio?
I have. Not, I haven't in Ohio. But like in New York, I've done that, right? Like
I feel like New York
is a lot more accepted, right? 100%. But like even in Jersey, right? Like I've gone to Dunkin' Donuts in Jersey, like after Eid, like that's like a thing me and my cousins do, right? And I'm like wearing the full like kurta, like super extra, and like obviously in Brunswick it's like celebrated, right?
Yeah.
Like people will come up to like my sister and me and be like, oh, like, you guys are really nicely dressed. But at that age, fuck no. Like, I have a picture, right? I have a picture with the old governor of Jersey, right? And I didn't post that picture on Facebook because I was wearing, like, a kurta. Which was insane, right? Like, Governor Khorasan, he came to, like, our,
There's a lot of scandals on his name.
Yeah, no, this was before, pre-scandals.
Yeah,
Yeah, pre-scandals. But, yeah, like, I think as a kid, right, like for you to change that, right, that's like it has to be like at some level traumatizing enough for you to change that, which is, it sucks, right?
Yeah.
Damn, kids are fucked up.
Yeah.
The moral of the story. But not to be all like gloom and doom, but I do want to talk to you and have everyone know, like, what are you up to now? Like, what does Prasad now do? Like, tell us what you're studying, whatever.
So, what Prasad does is like up in the air now. Prasad's looking for master's programs.
Okay.
But I'm finishing up undergrad here with neuroscience. Also, like, I had some experience with some medicines that didn't go too well from some illness a couple years back. So I came into college with the intention of like being a physician, preferably like a neurosurgeon. But those couple years of illness because of like a pharmaceutical drug kind of changed my viewpoints on a lot of things. And so now I'm kind of trying to find a career path that lets me mix like general medicine with like holistic medicine and Ayurveda, because those are the two things that when I used, I actually started to get better.
Okay. Could you explain what that is?
Yeah, so Ayurveda in specific is like this, I guess, Indian system of medicine.
Okay.
It's very ancient. People argue about the date that it was made. I usually go like 5,000 years. People will argue it was only 2,000 years old. People will go down to like 50,000.
Okay.
They'll argue like history and stuff with
Yeah.
It's an amalgamation of knowledge over the course of thousands of years.
Right.
Okay.
So it's just basically this whole like huge text on different plants and different like yoga techniques and different techniques of meditation, which like all together are just different ways to like maintain utmost health and to beat virtually any disease. And a lot of it's like non-intuitional. Like a lot of the things that Ayurveda will tell you, you would never figure out on your own. Like they'll just like rub something here with this, and it'll be weird. But what they think they did, like Ayurveda's from a culture in India of like yogis, like where these people would go and like meditate for hundreds of years. Like at that time they thought lifespans were longer, and they would download this information. So it's really hard to see like when you look at the specific cures like how it would work, but it just tends to like when you do them they work, and there's like thousands of years of data on like them using these things and them working.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So like this is like I'm trying to understand this. This is like one big text, or like how is this?
It's text. It's also just like it's a lot of knowledge that people just pass down from generation to generation. Like a lot of people kind of just have their own. I know these are like people will have their own like concoctions of different herbs that they put together to help remedy a specific ailment. So my grandpa, for example, like for stomach aches, he had this. It was like camphor and. Really, that's what I remember the most. I know it's camphor, but there's a lot of other things in there, right? And then I remember I was just throwing up because I just drank a lot of water from there, right? You shouldn't be drinking the water in India unless it's bottled water. Yeah. And so I was just throwing up, and just gave me a few drops in my tongue, like sublingually, of this kind of concoction. Yeah. Felt better within a half hour.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. And so I say it's because of from a book, because like in India, like when you talk about like Indian like Vedic history, they talk about these 4 books called the Vedas, and basically all information that they deal with come from these 4 books. Yeah. But the books, most of them are kind of like lost in knowledge, like they're not there anymore. But they say that one of those sections of one of the Vedas was just an Ayurvedic text, and so all of these cures kind of come from those, but it's kind of disseminated. So now there's like partial cures in places, people know parts of things.
It's like
that's
pockets of
where
information.
Like Aveda, AVEDA. Yeah. Like they do haircuts, makeup, whatever. That comes from Ayurveda, I assume.
Oh, does it?
It should. It makes sense,
Aren't
right?
you a Google guy? You should Google it.
Yeah. No, he's a
Suman, go Google that, bro.
Yeah.
Suman, you're on camera this time, so you can actually Google it. Yeah. Interesting. So like, I'm wondering now, like, is there like actual like scientific backings of like these like remedies, and like are there like scientific reasonings behind them?
A lot of them, I would say a lot of things are not proven, definitely, by science. A lot of things just haven't been studied too. But there are also a lot of things that do show.
Yeah.
Like just even mindfulness and meditation in general. Yeah. And changing your patterns of breathing.
Yeah. So there's been a lot of studies now out on like yoga, mindfulness. That's all becoming quite
more common in the mainstream. Yeah.
But there's also turmeric. There's a person at our university studying like curcumin.
It is.
Yeah. Oh, it is part of it. Okay, so there we go.
So there's someone studying curcumin, it's an active ingredient in turmeric, just
Okay.
for like I think cancer, like
Cancer
to stop
cells.
cancer cells. Yeah.
Okay. Wow. Interesting. I think like science
Also, it's,
sometimes.
antimicrobial.
Mm.
I think science sometimes like falls behind on certain things that like ancient like religions and ancient texts tell us, right?
Yeah.
But don't really give us like the definitive like scientific reasoning. So like my cousin was talking to me about it, and for the like I don't know if you guys know. So like when you pray in like Islam, right? Like you go prostrate, like your head touches the ground, right? And obviously like there's no like in like the Quran, like it doesn't give you the reason as to why, right? Like it'll just like I don't know, like kneel before your Lord, right? But now it's like coming out in like scientific studies where it's like because of like the Earth's like magnetic poles, right? Like every day, like you should have your head like touching the ground for like 10 seconds, right? Because the magnetic pull like pulls some of like I forgot what it's called, but like takes some of like the stress cells and takes it out, right? It's like a pull on your like brain itself, right? Because I guess like your brain also has like electromagnetic waves.
That's literally like the only way your brain runs.
Really? Electromagnetic waves?
Like chemical waves and
Yeah.
or chemical signals.
Yeah.
And
Damn, I suck at talking about science. Never let me do this again. But point being, right, that I think a lot of these like ancient like texts, right, like in especially I think in South Asia, right, have reasonings that like haven't been like quote unquote scientifically proven. Because once again, there's no money in it, right? Like pharmaceuticals, there's a shit ton of money, right? Like you're not gonna make money off of selling people turmeric, right? Like unless you know you're Trism and you're selling turmeric drinks, right? Like there's just no money in it, like because people can just grab it themselves.
Also, a different thing is like science is slow in general, right? Science is very methodical. You have to have all these replicates of all your experiments. You have to go through like almost years and years of research to prepare just a single paper.
Yeah.
And it's very slow comparatively to like make a simple observation and just go with it.
Yeah.
And just repetitively just keep doing it.
And
Go ahead.
no, sorry. I also think like that rigor of medicine hasn't been around long enough for all of these things to be tested, right? Because like you guys said, like this has been around like 2,000 plus years, right? So in that time, somebody should have probably tested it, but like nobody wanted to, like back in the day, nobody actually cared about like
If it worked, it worked, right? Like that was a test.
It was like, okay, like Kunj, you feel better?
Yeah.
All right, good money, let's keep doing this, right?
But also a lot of the problems with Ayurveda are a slight bit different in the sense that like a lot of these drugs do work because of like your body's biochemical processes. Like just like you take like Advil or something and it turns into a certain chemical in the body, hits certain receptors, does certain chemical actions, and you have the effect of pain. A lot of the drugs in Ayurveda have effects that don't work in that sense. And it starts to get weird at this point. Especially for if you're trying to integrate this into regular medicine. Because a lot of like what Ayurveda believes, a lot of what Chinese like Oriental medicine believes, like with acupuncture and stuff, is that your physical body is not the only thing that determines your health. They believe that there's because of like you being an electromagnetic entity, like you said, like the brain, that's how it works, is through electromagnetic signal. Because of that, there is literally like, just like there's electromagnetic fields around electric things, there's an electromagnetic field around your body, which people call auras and stuff. And because of this like energy around your body, if you play with that energy, you can heal the physical body. And so a lot of Ayurvedic medicines will aim towards that. And this, in general, this concept will boggle doctors. And it just gets harder to put into science.
It's not tangible. It's not something you can verify in a lab or anything like that.
But the weirdest thing is that it works. Like nowadays, insurance companies cover acupuncture from a doctor because it works.
Doesn't acupuncture have some physical aspect to it, or no?
Very slightly. There's certain like energy connections in the body. So like a lot of the points that they hit, physically you'd never be able to find it. Like there's no physical, like when they learn it, it's literally like 3-finger distance to here because there's no other marker. It's just proportions of the body, all your body's size.
Got it.
But yeah, there's no physical like sometimes there are like sometimes for major points it might correspond to like where your heart is or like other things are. But for a lot of the minor points, you'll never find it.
That's interesting though. I didn't know insurance like started covering acupuncture, which isn't technically. I didn't even know that acupuncture wasn't a proven medicine, quote unquote.
Well, technically.
Yeah, like it works.
Now it technically
we know
is,
it works.
right? Yeah.
But
we
can't
explain
prove that
why.
Why? Yeah, like the
Okay.
energy,
So yeah, if you can't prove it, it's not proven. Like,
So yeah.
It's a lot of semantics. I think a lot of scientists also understand that, and doctors also understand that. But they'll keep that in mind.
Yeah. That's like, I guess like the same thing of people who say like, oh, like I feel more like just overall relaxed like doing yoga, or I feel more like, I've heard a lot of people say like, and once again like this is where like I guess like faith, religion, and science kind of like don't mix, right? But at one point it will have to, right? Is that like, have you ever heard like, I know my mom says this all the time, right? Like she feels stressed out, she feels anxiety, and then she'll like pray, right? And she feels just like at ease, right?
Yeah.
There's no like scientific explanation as to why, right?
Yeah.
But
I mean, prayer in a lot of ways is just like meditation.
it is,
It's
but like
its own mode of-
but you can't scientifically prove meditation either.
I mean, there's some.
They're starting.
He would know about this.
Yeah, see, they're starting to, but it's still iffy. Like you can prove that like your brain waves will be in a certain state after
Mhm.
meditation. I've covered an article like that before. You can even prove that meditation has certain physiological benefit,
Yeah.
and like it'll lower heart rate and such. But then there's also other things that meditation does that you can't prove. Like people will just feel more refreshed after meditation.
Mm-hmm.
We'll need less sleep after meditation. There's no way to prove why that is. I would guess is because your body works more efficiently, but there's just like, we're not there yet in medicine to be able to like have some kind of holistic test tell you like, the processing of the body.
Yo, actually, so Prasad hooked me up with this meditation retreat for a few days for Yes Plus. It's a club on campus, and one of the meditation techniques, it's called Kriya. It means like a purifying act, kind of, and it's like all about rhythm in the way that you're breathing.
Mm-hmm.
And they say like it's meant to kind of bring about that rhythm into your body, so that it'll integrate with your body, and kind of like your sleep cycles, all of your kind of daily what are they called? Your cycles.
No circadian rhythms?
Circadian rhythms, like that. It kind of gets balanced out, and
What is the breathing technique?
it's hard to explain.
It's yeah, like
You want to do it
intense-
right now?
No, you can't.
On camera?
You need that whole little 2-day program to do it. It's a subtle breath, so like if you mess it, like they want to be there, make sure you learn it properly.
Oh,
But it's
okay.
intervals of short, medium, and long breaths, and it's kind of like
Yeah.
just going through that, and yeah.
You know what's insane that you guys brought this up right now? I've seen like, I watched like a bunch of those like random like self help like videos, right? And it's insane because like this one like speaker who used to be like he used to be a corporate lawyer, and now he like runs like a super successful podcast. I suck because I can't remember the name, right? And he was saying to refocus himself every single like day. Like he'll do like these like really aggressive like breaths, right, to like bring his like focus levels higher.
Yeah.
Because he used to be like dependent on like
It could be just oxygenating the blood.
yeah, and then but like other people like Tony Robbins have been selling this like for years, right? Where it's like he wakes up every morning and tries to like push like breath, like he tries to imagine that like there's like a wall coming down on him, and then the breath is pushing it up, right? So there's certain like breathing techniques that he implements every morning to like prepare him for his day. That's insane though, that like people are actually like selling these things. Damn, that's interesting.
But I can attest to the fact that the Kriya really does, like, you feel much more balanced. You know, you sleep on time. By 10 p.m., 10:30, you feel like, all right, it's time to go to sleep. Wake up early.
Yeah.
It's like
Shout out to Yes Plus OS.
Yeah, exactly. Shout out Yes Plus.
That's like actually like a really cool retreat.
Yeah,
You said it was like 2 days. Like where was it?
It's just
Yes, this one was on campus, right?
yeah.
Oh really? Wow.
Yeah. So I mean, like, it's not you're not there the whole time, but you're there for a few hours throughout the day.
Yeah.
And then you go about your day, and then it's
Who are like the people like running the class?
So they just have like a bunch of volunteers. It always starts with like someone else who like took the program.
Yeah.
It made such a monumental difference in their lives. So you get very inspired, and they do they have like a 2-week teacher training.
Mm-hmm.
So you go there, you learn a lot of like yoga techniques there, how to teach this method, like the subtleties behind it, so you can make sure everyone's doing it right.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, those people then come back and teach the program, and it just kind of like cycles like that. And they also have like a lot of like advanced programs. So like the one I like doing a lot is like silence retreats. So you go into like complete silence for 3 days. You don't say a word.
Have you done this before?
3 times.
Silence retreat. Wow. I feel like I
For
need
how
that.
long?
For
It's
3
hard,
days.
Huh?
It's
They're
hard.
difficult because like it's interesting, like, because you think it's just like not talking, but there's so much like these like weird esoteric sciences that go in. Like a lot of the times, like I don't know if you've ever noticed, but like if you have like a really deep conversation with someone for a long time,
Mm-hmm.
if you were very energetic beforehand, you'll feel tired afterwards. But it's not like you were doing anything, like you weren't moving around, you were just sitting there. It's because a lot of the energy that your brain uses is to turn thoughts and ideas, which are very intangible,
Mm-hmm.
into words.
Okay.
Solid, tangible, to like express the idea.
Mm-hmm.
and it just takes so much energy. And so the concept between the silence retreat is that like a lot of people like when something happens day to day, like let's say for example like I call you like you're a stupid person.
Mm-hmm.
So you're gonna be like it's fine, like whatever. But maybe inside like it affects you and you just like hold it there. Right? Like, you're not gonna start beef with me over that now, but like it just sticks and you're like, am I stupid? Like do I come off like this to people?
Mm-hmm.
And it sticks. And in Ayurvedic sciences, they say that there's 7 main energy centers throughout the body called your chakras, if you ever heard of them.
Okay, yeah.
But a lot of them like correspond to also certain feelings. So like for example, like your heart corresponds to love, but also to hatred. So if you have feelings of hatred, they'll get stuck in that energy center. So what you do in a silence retreat is you cease to talk. So all the energy that you waste talking is now conserved in the body. And then since you have that step down, you start doing intense like breathing techniques. So these breathing techniques, why they work, why meditation works in general in Ayurvedic senses is because the air that is around you has like the quality of oxygen, that there's oxygen present, but also another factor in the air is this thing called prana, which is just like kind of life energy. So every breath that you take up some of this like life energy, and it's what keeps you live. Like there is no living thing on earth that doesn't breathe, right? So it's this prana that keeps you.
Or doesn't process oxygen. Right.
The prana is a different
okay.
material. So
It's
even
kinda
like
it's
fish
an
is like
abstract,
like there's some breathing process that happens in fishes even though it's underwater.
Mm-hmm.
But prana is not something that's confined to just air. It's like almost like Higgs field type, like everywhere.
Okay.
So that like when you inhale, it's like literally energy. So when you do these like fast breathing techniques, you increase the amount of prana, which is energy, and you already have the saved energy from like not talking. So this like huge amount of energy then you can direct to these energy centers which you store emotions in, and it can start to clean you out really, really well. But
interesting.
Since it cleans you out, it's gonna release these emotions. So you'll feel everything you ever kept inside. And it's very painful.
Yeah.
But once you feel them, you're able to completely release, and they don't come back to bug you. So it's very like rejuvenating.
Yeah, that's the thing about like so the retreat that we had, right? So like you're kind of very open with the people around you. You're being very honest, talking about your life stories, your failures, successes, and you open up yourself emotionally to a bunch of random people actually, and it's almost like raw in a way. You're very raw emotionally. You become more. I feel like just like living our lives, we become very hardened.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's hard to feel like true happiness. I think, or like it's
you become jaded.
Yeah.
Just because like
yeah, but like when you're there, like and it just opens you up, and there's like a lot of like kind of almost like I don't know how to describe it, but like kind of very things that open you up emotionally.
Okay.
That maybe you might not feel comfortable doing, like with people, but because you do it, then you open up and you can really feel like emotion. I feel like it's kind of like a regulation. You feel like back to normal.
Got it. So how long was your silent retreat? Like that's actually super interesting.
So I've done 3 different ones. I think they've all been 3 days.
What's the longest you haven't spoken?
The 3 days, yeah.
The 3 days?
Yeah.
That is insane. Like I cannot imagine that.
It's weird. Like I
and
remember
like you're surrounded by people too, right?
Yeah, and so like
insane.
they tell you in the
You live
beginning
with
like
people.
Huh?
You live in a
yeah,
room.
that was rough. Like having roommates when you
really?
like go back because you're there like 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. right?
Mm-hmm.
But you sleep at your own place. So you have to drive back, and then my roommates would literally be like, "Yo, what's up?" And I'd be like,
Oh, okay.
like
No, because they were
say
telling me I
nothing.
think for the Michigan one that you actually like they have bunks and stuff there, and then you have like random roommates. That
Yeah, so they have in different
can't-
places.
Yeah.
So
Wait,
like,
but that's still super difficult.
Yeah, I know.
Like, imagine trying to go to like a restaurant or something like.
So even after hours, you're not able to talk, or like
no, like completely, like
Yeah.
3 days full. Like, you
I mean, I'm
don't-
assuming like if you want,
72
you could, but like to be dedicated
course,
to the
yeah,
whole
yeah, exactly.
process,
Yeah,
you want to
yeah.
just be silent.
That's fine.
That is insane. I'm glad this came up though. Like I'm glad that we had this conversation.
Yeah.
It's insane. Like I can't even imagine like not speaking for like 1 day, more or less like 3. Damn. But like you did say like you felt like the after effects.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh, you feel immediately better. So like the last one I did, I didn't feel like too great afterwards, but that's because I was going through some other stuff. But yeah, the first 2 I did, oh my god, immediately after you get like a difference.
yeah, that's crazy.
Like, but you won't feel that difference till you do like that last meditation on the last day.
yeah.
So the 3 days themselves were like torture. Like they the worst days of my life. But immediately after, you feel much, much better.
Do you think people's this is like somewhat of a segue, random question. Do you think people's comments like you think like you ponder like smaller comments?
I mean, like you said, it just sticks sometimes.
Does
you,
it?
You don't like think, like subconsciously you're definitely, treating it throughout your body and kind of, thinking about it.
Interesting.
Right? That's kind of like where insecurities stem from.
Like other people's comments over time.
Yeah, it's not even other people's comments. It's like your over analysis.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's all it is.
Yeah, it's always
over
over-analysis.
analysis.
Yeah, overthinking.
Yeah. Hey, yo, back to the Korea thing though, real quick. So we're talking about how science is a very slow process, and it's hard to kind of get verifiable results. But so actually, I looked it up. So that particular technique that they did.
You just looked it up right now?
No, not right now.
Oh.
In the past they actually did a paper, some Indian researchers, and it turned out. So there's like a bunch of different hormones, right? Like vasopressin, oxytocin. A lot of these hormones are kind of associated with our emotion in day-to-day living, right?
Yeah.
And throughout with all the stress levels and things like that, and our cortisol levels and stuff like that, it just over hormone levels kind of become dysregulated. They have abnormal amounts, right? But by doing this technique, they were actually able to measure it. That the concentrations of these hormones were reset back to a normal point. I forget exactly what the reference was, like what the control was.
Yeah.
But I remember like that was
like certain endorphins, like you can measure those endorphins in anybody.
Well, hormones.
Hormones. Yeah. Damn, that's pretty dope, right? And like I think over time, right? Like that's something that like eventually, hopefully, you guys both will push, right? Or like people in general, right? Is like these things in medicine, right? Because a lot of the times, like we take, because medicine varies. I think, in my opinion, like I don't even think my opinion. I think it's pretty factual, right? I think medicine varies from like anywhere that you go in the world, right? They have different medicinal like properties, right?
Fun fact: vaccine was invented in Africa. Yeah.
Interesting. But the whole point being is that in the U.S. we're practicing American medicine, right? And as we get people of different backgrounds in medicine, right? These things should be, like you said, like there hasn't been tests done. There should be more of these tests done on these things, right? Because it is possible, right? Like you just described a way that it is possible, and you said Indian doctors, right? Eventually we'll have enough South Asian doctors in the U.S., right? I mean, I'm assuming we have enough now, right? We're just like now not doing it, but eventually we'll have enough who are that will be able to validate these things, right? And hopefully lead us to a better balance of health and medicine.
Yeah.
I don't think that's the problem, though. I think what you said before was the problem of money, because there's no money in these things.
Oh yeah.
It's like if you like, I mean, it's not.
I don't know if it really matters like from like ethnicity to ethnicity, right? It's just like if it works, right?
No, I know, but the reason ethnicity is ethnicity is that like a U.S. doctor may not know about the turmeric thing, right? But you just having your background, be like, oh, like this is something I should go out and test, right? I think the money thing is not like an easy solve, right?
The money thing I say because like I was watching this documentary. I think we've talked about this, but I bring it up all the time.
Mm-hmm.
But I was watching this documentary on Vice, and it broke my heart because it was like they had this little girl, and she had like deathly case of cancer. She had like stage 4. Like it wasn't looking good. They thought she was gonna die like the next couple of days. And so they had this experimental treatment where it was literally they took the HIV virus, so really for AIDS, and it's a retrovirus, so it can get into, correct me if I'm wrong because I haven't paid attention to genetics too much, but it can get into your host cells, so like your kind of like T cells, and like send its own like DNA programming inside, so then your T cells then become a factory for more HIV virus to happen. So they, like immunologists and biologists looked at that HIV virus molecule, and they stripped it of everything harmful, and so they literally just had like molecular machinery to like just go into a cell and program whatever the hell they wanted to, right? So they took that hybrid HIV virus and programmed a DNA code specific for T cells, like your white blood cells, to recognize cancerous cells and fight them. And so they gave this little girl who already had cancer basically AIDS, and she like went into a coma for like
to try and cure it.
Right. I mean, it sounds very bad.
Yeah, and they gave her AIDS. Like, that was pretty.
But she went to a coma. There's a lot of stuff. So she went to a coma for like 7-8 days. But afterwards, like they showed a month after, she had full head of hair, back to school, cancer gone, like full remission. It was 2013.
Yeah.
And not like the study didn't get funded.
Where's that medicine now?
It's sitting in that lab. It's sitting in that lab.
Listen, Magic Johnson is still alive, so I refuse to believe that we don't have that medicine.
Yeah.
Like, Magic is still here, thriving, yo. Magic looks like the healthiest sick person
Well, so we're talking about just
ever.
like using, so kind of hijacking machinery of like a specific virus
Yeah.
and using it against cancer though specifically.
Yeah.
Like not even just like AIDS.
No, I know.
Like,
I'm just saying,
I know, yeah.
I'm just saying, like, these medications are definitely out there,
Yeah.
right? Like,
Yeah.
they may not be getting
I mean,
to
no,
us,
but,
right?
I mean, like for Magic, he has to take like a.
Oh, yeah, no,
like
he has a
like
record,
a hefty
definitely.
cocktail.
Yeah,
of
definitely.
drugs.
But it exists, right?
Yeah.
And
it's definitely like money rank. Like if you
Yeah.
have a certain amount of money, you can do something.
yeah, and I think Chris Rock has like a really good stand-up special about it, where he's all like, "Listen, like, yo, the U.S. government's still mad that they cured polio. You realize how much money they lost curing polio,
Yeah.
right? Like, think about it, like realistically, like cancer medicine, like
Well, the
as in-
reason he didn't. So the creator of the inventor or whoever discovered this vaccine for polio, right?
Mhm.
He didn't patent it, so it was able to be just sold cheap.
Oh no, but like I'm just saying in general, right?
Yeah.
Like you're,
But see, like it takes like Jonas Salk. You should remember for that, you know.
yeah.
Like it takes like the human being to do.
Yeah,
something.
but like you need like somebody if you cure something, right? That's a like cancer, right? That's a billion dollar industry, right? Like the treatment of cancer day to day, right?
Yeah.
But like you cure it, like that's a be all end all cure for that, right? Like you're sure stopping the grind, right? Like that pharmaceutical money isn't coming in anymore.
Well, yo, 100%. There's never gonna be that kind of cure for cancer. Because number one, cancer stems from like the way we lead our lives. That's
Yeah.
like the main like cause of
Yeah,
cancer.
yeah.
And it's just like if we're not gonna
There's
address
no
our lives.
there's
so,
no
I mean,
absolute cure,
yeah.
right? But there should be cures for certain
Yeah.
like variations
Yeah.
of it, right?
There's a lot of like simple things in Ayurveda that you can do for cancer. Like
Yeah.
so like I think what is it called? Onion seeds. It's one of the simplest things you can
Yeah.
do, but it's hugely implicated.
I heard
in
this
cancer.
crazy story, like back when like my grandma had like cancer, right? Like obviously like we were doing like a lot of like research, right? And like we were reading anything and everything, right? Like anything to like cure it. And like my dad like stumbled upon and like it might have even been like the New York Times, right? This like really like super like rich, like super successful, like he's Asian, right? Like businessman got cancer in the U.S., right? They ran the test and the doctor basically said like you have like a year to live, right? Like there's no point, like you know what I mean? Like go home, like spend time with your family, right? There's nothing like we realistically can do. And the guy's originally from I believe it was China, right? And he was like, all right, like that's where my family is. That's where like I was born. I'm gonna go back there, right? Goes back there, and just like lives in like his village, right? For that year, right? And then he's just expecting to die or feel worse, right? Like feel anything. He's just having like Chinese herbs over there, right? He keeps waiting to die, right? And then like a year and a half passes, right? And he still hasn't, right? So he like books his flight back, right? And comes back, and he goes back to the doctor and runs the test, right? There's no cancer cells anymore. This is a guy who went from being basically terminal to like now having zero. He's in full remission, right? And the doctor's like, "What did you do?" Right? He's like, "The village that I live in, like they gave me like he told me he was like, I had tea and I had herbs in that tea, and then I had like whatever food that they were serving there. That's it." And the doctor's like, "I guess it's a miracle, right?" And like things like that, right? Like of course, like we can. The easiest write off is like, "Oh, it's a miracle," right? But there has to be like, you know what I mean? There's too many
Well, I mean,
stories like that.
Like cancer is just like so it's like your normal cells, right?
Mhm.
And so all your cells are dividing constantly, right? And there's just kind of like a
Mutation.
There's different checkpoints, right?
Yeah.
All throughout the cell cycle, as it's gonna split off into a different cell, and there's like kind of a misregulation
Mhm.
of that kind of splitting, and that leads to kind of uncontrollable splitting. So it just keeps on going, and it starts to attack
Yeah.
your body. Start using resources. Basically, it prioritizes its own existence over you the
Mhm.
most.
Yeah.
So it becomes like a distinct entity.
Yeah.
And we're talking about that too, like, yeah. But that's a conversation for a different day.
There's like no, I've heard like certain like religious things like behind like cancer.
Yeah, no, because we were talking about this, like, it's kind of like an abstract thing, but we were talking about like, is it possible, right, for cancer cells to have consciousness in a way?
Yeah,
Because
to have
there's
like,
like
to have like a
cancers.
soul. It's in itself.
Not
right?
necessarily a soul, but like just an aura around it, or kind of like
Mhm.
it's hard to
Maybe
Like
it's
living
different,
energy,
like,
because it is a
thoughts.
part of
Exactly,
you, right?
exactly.
Yeah.
It's an external, internal part of you,
Yeah.
realistically.
But there's also like tumors you can get, like they're non-cancerous, but the tumor can theoretically grow so big that it'll start to grow other body parts.
Yeah,
so it'll
bro,
have like an eye,
eyes and
like
mouth.
mouth. Yeah, so
That's
it's-
so interesting.
Right.
So like, what is the consequence of that? Like, what is like?
It's those tumors are usually not bad. They're just annoyance.
Sorry, let me clarify. Like, not like the actual like physical consequence. Like, but what does that really mean for like, what like you know what I mean? Like, we haven't been able to establish like what that means, right?
Yeah.
From like any aspect of that. Damn. We went into like a really deep science tangent. I like it. That was like that was a really intelligent conversation that we just
Hey,
had. I'm glad.
one thing I want to ask you though.
Sure.
So you're a neuroscience major, right? Both of us are in neuroscience. I just want to ask you, because I know for me it's had an impact on the way I approach life and how I look at other people.
Yeah.
Giving me more like an empathetic standpoint. So I was gonna ask you, do you feel the same way? Like, how do you think your major and what you've learned has changed the way you talk to people or how you perceive people, especially in bad situations?
My perception, your perception of this are almost flipped.
Okay.
Because I think you took neuroscience and you became a more empathetic
Yeah.
person. I was empathetic to a fault. And so I took neuroscience because I was then attracted. I wanted to see why people act the way they do and what happens to people. Because I always had, like ever since I can remember, I was a very sensitive kid. And I was always the type of person that like, I don't know, people just could flock to me and then tell me, like, they just seemed to like empty out. And it was because like, I don't know, I seemed to get people like very well. So like an easy person to talk to, but I was like, I also like cling on to people's emotions really easily and stuff. So I always had that tinge of myself, and I always wondered like, why does all this happen, and what like, is there any physicality behind emotions? And the answer to that is in neuroscience. Like, what does the brain do when it's perceiving emotions? Like, this is part of it. Like, what is the physiological action happening to something that feels so real? And that's how I got into it. And it's hasn't changed my understanding as much as I thought it would. Because I think the only thing in a sense has solidified the fact that a lot of the problems, like emotional problems that people can have roots in physiology. So it does increase your like, see, you won't judge anyone because you know that like people might act weird because there's something there.
It's a scientific reason. Yeah.
See, like,
Right.
yeah, that's like the primary reason why it gives me,
Right.
a lot of empathy.
But at the same time, I've also noticed that because of my view of like how feelings work, it makes the brain a very dynamic organ.
Right.
Because there's so much stuff that like, you can look at it one way and be like, if you have a lot of neurons in a certain brain, he's going to be more intelligent. The person will be more intelligent. But the way I look at it, that's not a marker of intelligence. Like, if you work super hard, you put the time in, you're going to get intelligence of whatever you're putting the time into, right? And I think that actually speaks to more of like the dynamism of the brain. I think it's emotionally the same way. Like, very like closed people can become open. Very mean people can become nice. I think that's just like what we learn is just we're just looking at what the brain is doing in that moment. I don't think it has anything to like that controls who you are. I think you have more of a control than you think you are, and the brain's a dynamic organ to mold to that.
Yeah, definitely. I agree. Anyway, off this deep science tangent, let's get to some fuck shit, because realistically that's all that matters. No, I'm just kidding. No, some things I just wanted to talk about, since we're just chilling with friends now, right? Hasan Minhaj Ticket Tours came out. My dude sold out fast.
Yeah, he's popular.
Like, he is popping, right? Like, I bought tickets.
Yo, this feels like Hot 97, how we're talking about artists, and then like Andrew coming in like, oh yeah, he's popping right now.
He's popping? Yeah, no. Anyway, I feel like we should do that at some level, because nobody's talking about like the brown people in our community, right? Like, that should be done. Hasan Minhaj, like, sold out super fast, right? I just bought the Philly tickets, and like I had to get balcony because like we bought like 7 tickets, like me and my cousins, and the balcony had the floor had 1 seat left, and it's like a huge venue. It's in Philly. It's called like the Kimmel Center or something, and like the balcony, like we looked at it, it's also like filling up really quickly, and like we bought it the day that it came out. I was like, damn, like my man is up and coming. I think like, to be honest, like I think this will break like a lot more like brown comedians in terms of, not break because there's still a significant amount, but I just think make it like more mainstream. Because like the thing with like Hasan Minhaj is like, because he's like young enough, right? His marketing is on point, right? Like he had everyone like sharing it on Insta, like, and I think like more people should go towards that. Damn, what else happened this week since the last time we talked? Anything notable? Anything worth talking about? Anything in music?
No.
Any good albums drop? Wiz.
Just Wiz.
Wiz dropped. Did you listen?
I listened to some of it.
Second
Did you
half.
listen?
Not yet.
Yeah, we're terrible.
Astroworld is.
We're terrible hip hop fans.
Second
Yeah.
half.
We're terrible
yeah.
hip hop fans.
I mean, I'm not, you know. I listened to some of it. Some
I
of it
enjoyed
was-
the features a lot.
Features?
It sounded like a Wiz Khalifa album. I'll say that much, you know?
Alright, yeah.
It sounded like Wiz
I mean, it's
Khalifa.
called Rolling Papers too, so
Yeah.
I would, it's like he's going back to his home base. Damn, I didn't listen to it at all. I'm
Yeah.
ass. I did listen to While You Were in the Bathroom. I listened to the new Fabulous track with Ty Dolla. It's good.
Nice.
It's like old school Fab. Like I like it. You said Astroworld is dropping or drop? No,
No,
dropping.
yeah. Well, so Mike Dean is mastering, mixing, whatever he's doing right now.
How do we know this?
Because he has the hard drive.
Oh, he has the hard drive.
Yeah, bro.
Are you using Twitter right now or
No,
Instagram?
no, he's on Instagram.
Oh, he's on Instagram.
Yeah. But he's in Hawaii.
I think it's so funny how we find out news now from like Instagram and Twitter, like the
Yeah.
status of things. Like, there's no such thing as like real promotion runs, right?
Yeah.
It's not like, oh, like Trav told us that the date is coming. It's like, oh.
Well, he tweeted it though. He's like, "Yo, I'm so excited. Astroworld soon."
But he didn't give a date though, right?
Yeah.
See, like I hate when artists don't do that. It's like, yo,
Give us a date.
nah, I
Nah, I like it. Yo, if an album just dropped like that, like I don't know, it gives you more
It need to be,
appreciation.
like,
It just drops.
I think
Prepared, I feel like.
no. I think that's why artists do that, for that mentality right there, right? So you can't prepare it for it, and you have no expectation.
Exactly.
I really
Yeah.
realistically like, cause think about it, like for like the Nas and Kanye album, right?
Yeah.
Like you really enjoyed it, right? But I know like the public sentiment was like not as big as it
strong,
should have
yeah.
been. But that's because for the last like 3 months we've been hearing, yo, Nas and Kanye,
Yeah,
right? Like
yeah.
we had the expectation was so high, so when it finally dropped, it's like, damn, like it's not how I
I feel
feel.
it was
Oh,
mostly
yeah.
the critics though.
Same
like,
with Drake.
Quite a few
He
critics
said
didn't like.
Yeah, because
Nas.
the expectation
But
for
yo,
Nas
dude,
and
like,
Kanye.
yo, man, I got a little fight with music critics though.
Yeah,
Like, you know, like the pitchforks and this and that. I mean,
Pitchfork.
some reviews like I always give it a shot to read it, right? A lot of the reviews are, some of them are good. They make good points. A lot of them are just like, so they confuse. This is a big thing for me, confusing the person or like the events around the piece of art. And this kind of goes back to the X thing as well.
No, yeah.
Like the Kanye thing, like separating.
And also like a lot of these like
although,
critics, right?
although it was substantially like less intense, I guess.
Yeah.
Than X's situation.
Oh, no, definitely.
That's like yeah.
But at the same time, like you have to understand that like at the end of the day, like you brought up a good point. Critics are people, right? So we talked about like people's sentiments towards other people and how that affects everything. So how is a critic gonna ever like judge Tekashi, right? Like no, a critic at Pitchfork, right, or a critic at Rolling Stone, who's probably never like come from that neighborhood, will never understand the sentiment that Tekashi makes people feel, right?
He's
Like,
in jail right
I
now.
mean, you could say that about a lot of people, a lot of different artists.
no, I know. I'm
Yeah,
just
yeah.
using Tekashi right now because like Tekashi's super hot right now, right? Like,
Arguably.
what do you mean argue?
Among
There-
the-
you
among
can't
the
argue that.
youngsters.
Alright.
He's
yeah.
one of the number one.
He's a
With the-
person of
with the
interest.
He's the top. He's one of the
Hey,
top
but
5
don't-
streaming artists
But don't
right now.
confuse him for an artist. He's a person of interest, but don't confuse him for an artist.
You don't think he's an artist?
He's
No,
technically.
I don't think not.
No. What do you
Why do you
like?
say that?
You're saying artists like that,
Hey, bro, like just like
anybody who creates something is an artist.
Then-
This goes into that.
Okay.
This
But
is
there's
the
a-
end.
there's a
Yo,
difference
the
between,
dude
like-
at Subway
No,
who
no,
creates
so
a sandwich.
This is
Nah,
different
nah.
than cheap appeal versus
Cheap
like
appeal.
I put my heart, my emotion, my life into this, bro.
I would say he puts all of that in.
But how much of it is cheap appeal?
No, but you're basing it off of your feelings towards his music, right? But that's not to say like he's not. He is describing technically what he is quote unquote living or experiencing, right? But that's you're doing it off of your things. So if I draw something right now, right?
All right, so
And-
so
no.
So let me know some
finish,
notable, like bars from him.
No, forget bars, right? But you're describing art, right? So if I draw something right now, and even if it's a piece of shit, right? If it's a piece of shit, like, and I draw it, I'm like, are you not gonna call me like an artist, right? Like just because you don't enjoy it, right? I still put it like that's art, isn't it?
Yeah, but
And what do you
Yeah,
call the person who
alright,
makes the
so-
art? And noun?
so
Artist?
no, but what was the purpose behind the design?
What do you mean?
What was the purpose?
To express how I felt at that moment.
Then it is art.
So he's expressing what he's feeling at that moment.
But there's a difference between art and cheap appeal. See that's the mixing of business and art. Don't let.
No, but I would say like when his first songs like came out, right?
No, listen, bro. So all of this, like, right? So what I'm talking about is people like to masquerade business enterprises and like this pursuit of money, very like at a very it's so easy to exploit people and get money off of that, right? And they're masquerading it as art, but it's not really art, bro.
But that's your feeling towards that. You don't know. We talked about people's inner motivations, right?
Hey, hold on.
You don't know people's inner motivations.
Hold on. So, what have you? So, all right. The last 2 weeks we've been talking about Tekashi a lot. Not once have I heard you guys say, "Yo, like he's a dope artist." All I've heard is, "Yo, he's a dope businessman." Yo,
I did not say that.
Yes, you did. He knows how to get his money.
No, I said he's a good.
He knows how to get
he's a good
attention.
marketer. No,
He's a good marketer.
Listen,
That's it, bro. Nothing else.
I may not listen to him, right? But there's no denying that if I play him at any club right now, right, that his music will not bang that whole thing. Like shut it down.
Shut it down.
Shut it down.
Shut it down.
100%. I think you're out of touch right now. I 100% think you're out of touch. I think like listen. Listen,
I'm gonna neck you.
Look at any of our NB boys like Snapchats from any of the parties that they're at, right? Tell me what song they snap. It's definitely a Tekashi snap, like 100%. I think you're out of touch right now. We're old now.
I'm old, bro.
We're old, bro.
Bro, I respect art, bro.
We're
That's
old.
what it is, bro.
We're too old.
You respect your definition of art.
Thank you.
There's like a certain thing in your head where you're like, this is art and this is not art.
Yeah.
But the thing is you never sat down with Tekashi. You don't know his inner workings of his head and his motivation. You assume logically that because he talks about this, and this, and this, and this is popular in today's media, and this, and this is praised by the younger generation, that because he raps about those things, that he's only doing it for business and there is no artistic motivation. But you can't make that claim without actually having sat with him and understood that.
Well, no, hold up. So when you release music, though, it's once you have. So we're talking about the release, right? The release of music, surprise release. It's all there. It shouldn't matter what's beyond that. It's there. It's all on a piece of paper.
But you just said motivation
it's all
matters.
there. Huh?
But you just said motivation matters, and you don't know his motivation. Because you're saying it's a business thing, right?
But you can tell from the final product.
No, you can't.
Yes, you feel you can tell.
No, you think
it doesn't meet Kunja's standards for art. But it doesn't meet art.
All right. After this is all done, we'll go through some Tekashi.
Alright. I'm not saying I would agree. I don't like the guy either. I don't listen
to you guys are all. I want you especially.
Me?
We're gonna sit here. We're gonna watch every Tekashi video, bro.
I'm not
Anyway,
I want you to listen to that, bro. I want you to tell me that's art, bro. I want you to tell me that's art, bro.
Listen, I'm not even saying from my aspect, right? Like I personally I bump, but it's not like I'm a huge Tekashi fan, right? You know what school I come from in hip hop, and it's like J, right? Like it's real New York City hip hop, right? But I'm not gonna deny his motivations because, like Prasad said, like we don't know, right? Like anybody who watches.
So I'm not saying like any specific genre. I think Chief Keef to me is an artist. Tekashi.
Like once again, opinions.
Alright, that's fine.
Because
that's fine.
the same reasons that both of you are gonna go into med, right? You guys can say and tell me whatever your motivations are, right? How do I not know both of you aren't doing it as a money grab?
Well, I mean,
it's true.
So that's there's also alright. When you're an artist, right? You're gonna alright. This is hard to explain. We can carry on.
We'll go. Alright, yeah. We got into it for a little bit. I like that.
I ain't no Tekashi fan, just to make it clear.
Alright, bro.
Had to get that across.
BDC fan.
Subin's little comments are gonna make this podcast.
Shout out Mellow B though.
Shout out Mellow B.
Shout out Mellow B.
He's
Shout out
dropping tomorrow.
Damn.
Sandstone.
No, shut up. Oh, Sandstone drops tomorrow for Mellow B.
Yeah.
Damn, can we do that? Yeah, it's my podcast. I don't give a fuck. Yo, Mellow B's song. Wait, what day are we recording? When does it drop? The 16th?
Yeah.
Damn, I'm terrible with dates. What day is it? It's July 15th, so it will have dropped yesterday because this will most likely drop on Wednesday. Anyway, whenever I decide to edit this.
Shout out
But listen to Sandstone by Mellow B. Shout out to North Brunswick.
732.
Shout out girls too.
Alright, we're getting too ignorant on this.
No,
Shout out to girls. No,
hey,
but he doesn't have like a project coming.
Shout out the Manor. Shout out
we're gonna
Court. Shout out Birchwood, bro.
Shout out all of Jersey.
Yeah, shout out North Brunswick, New Jersey. Shout out 08902. Shout out 732.
Exit 9.
Hey, bro.
Exit 9.
Hey, yo, somebody comment my name. I'll Venmo you $5.
Garden State.
It's a little snippet.
All right, you got that. You got that on camera. If you at Kunj, he'll Venmo you $5.
Sir.
First person to do it though.
Yeah, done.
Yo, you better stick to your word. Cause
I
if I
will,
get
100%.
if I get comments later saying
No,
like, "Yo,
I'm
Kunj
down.
didn't do
I'm
it," I'm
down.
smack you.
Hey, shout out to you if you're watching this whole thing.
All right, word.
Bro, definitely, bro.
Oh no, yeah, that should be the
Like, that's what I'm
that
saying,
should be
bro,
the
like-
incentive to watch
No,
through.
that's what I'm saying,
Yeah,
All my fans gonna be watching this.
Yeah.
yeah.
I will Venmo you.
All your who?
My fans.
Oh yeah, 100%. All right, bet. Is there anything else we want to talk about? Anything else interesting happened this past week?
Tekashi's not an artist.
All right, bro. We're off that. Anything else? How's everyone? Anybody have plans this coming week? Anything exciting? No?
Studying.
Studying?
Yeah, bro.
Studying?
It's exam season. Yeah.
Exam season?
Exam
Damn.
season.
Alright, I guess we're good. Prasad, thank you for doing this.
Thank you.
I will not thank the rest of y'all, because fuck y'all.
Alright.
And
Alright.
fuck y'all opinions on Tekashi.
Alright.
But,
Damn, so he's
No,
really
no.
repping Tekashi right now.
no, I'm not ready. Alright, anyway, we're not getting. No, that's not what we're doing. Yeah, how do we get from Hasan Minhaj to Tekashi? Yeah, like real quick.
Hey man, let him be.
There's some other thing that I wanted to talk about. Anyway, y'all made me forget, and now it's too late. Thank you guys for tuning in to episode 2 of the Urbn Desi podcast. Hopefully, we'll have another guest next week. If not, it might just be me, Kunj, and Subin debating Tekashi. So if y'all know somebody interesting in Columbus, let me know. Yeah, but thank you. Facts. Cut that shit. Go. Oh no, cut this. I'll cut that. Oh shit.